Why was that?
Because he was not proud of me. He never said, I love you. He never said, I'm proud of you. Never.
In 2024, André Rieu, the Dutch violinist beloved across the world as the king of the waltz, turned 75. It was not just a birthday, it was the celebration of more than half a century of music, transformation, and resilience. Few musicians have managed to redefine a genre as he has. From his modest youth in Maastricht to Vienna's shining stages, Sydney's beaches, and New York City's bright lights, Rieu's life has been one of controversy, passion, and boundless joy. But beneath the beaming maestro and twirling gowns of his Johann Strauss Orchestra is a tale of remarkable resilience. A man who made classical music into a world spectacle and would not let tradition stifle imagination. André Lion Marie Nicolas Rieu was born on October 1st, 1949, in the historic city of Maastricht, Netherlands. He was the third child of 6 in a family that vibrated with music. His father, André Rieu Sr., was a renowned conductor of the Maastricht Symphony Orchestra, and as soon as little André could manage a violin, everyone knew music was his calling. He started taking lessons when he was 5 under the rigid discipline and traditional classical standards. Yet, even then, something was different about him. While his dad was a traditionalist, André was a dreamer, imaginative, inquiring, and by temperament possessing a vision to bring music to life as something joyful, not merely exact. His early life was spent in hours of intense training. He trained at the Conservatoire Royal in Liège and subsequently at the Maastricht Conservatorium from 1968 to 1973 under the guidance of distinguished teachers such as Joe Juda and Herman Krebers. His desire for mastery sent him to Brussels, where he trained at the Music Academy under André Gerdeler, acquiring the esteemed Premier Prix with honors from the Royal Conservatory. Rieu's classical education provided the building block for his genius, but it was during these years that his romance with the waltz commenced. The moment he performed Franz Lehar's Gold UND Silber waltz, something fell into place. The joy of the audience was immediate, and Rieu knew that classical music could elicit an emotional response from people, not just intellectually but emotionally. It could bring tears to their eyes, make them smile, dance. That discovery would define the course of his life. By the 1980s, Rieu had already toured with a number of orchestras, the Limburg Symphony Orchestra among them. But part of him longed for artistic freedom. So in 1987, he created his own group, having named it after his idol, the Johann Strauss Orchestra. It started small, 12 members, and their inaugural concert was on New Year's Day, 1988. What began as an experiment soon turned into a musical empire. Through the years, the orchestra grew to over 50 musicians, and they became renowned for grandeur, color, and drama in their performances. Rieu was not just a violinist, he was a showman, creating experiences more than concerts. From fountains to chandeliers, from couples that danced to sweeping stages that looked like Viennese ballrooms, all of these were elements that expressed his conviction that classical music should be shared by all. His instrument was as unique as the performances. Rieu's instrument is a 1667 Stradivarius violin, a masterpiece of craftsmanship that sings in the warmth and depth that only centuries of age can impart. With it, he charmed crowds from Europe to North and South America, Japan, Australia, and New Zealand. His concerts sold out stadiums, not concert halls, transforming a once reserved art form into one of joy and inclusivity. In a time when many believed classical music was on its deathbed, André Rieu made it dance again. Yet success was not without its tribulations. In 2017, Rieu became involved in a court case that had the potential to sully his reputation. Dutch officials accused his production company of breaking child labor laws when children appeared on stage during one of his concerts beyond the legally approved times. The media latched onto the story, and for a moment, it appeared that the King of the Waltz had made a misstep. Rieu's management maintained that the kids were not working for his company, but were guests of a third-party organization. They only showed up briefly, around 11 p.m., to bow, not to perform. The judge, after a long court process, ruled in favor of Rieu, suspending the €116,000 penalty. Although vindicated, The ordeal served as a sobering reminder that in the music world, too, fame does not protect from scrutiny. The case also had larger implications regarding child involvement in performances, and Rieu himself was relieved that the saga was over, but it left an impression on how production companies would approach such collaborations in the future. Though controversies involving the law dissipated, another war raged on, this one of art. In the classical community, Rieu has always been a divisive presence. To his millions of admirers, he is a mastermind who restored joy and refinement to music. But to some classical purists, he is an entertainer rather than a musician, and they have consistently accused him of diluting classical music with showmanship, of reducing art to entertainment. Critics mock his showy costumes, dancers, and shimmering sets as frills that undermine the emotional and technical richness of the music. One columnist in the Washington Examiner once referred to him as the king of classical kitsch, implying that his concerts were too sentimental and lacking in gravitas. To Rieu, though, those criticisms are beside the point. Music, he is often quoted as saying, is about emotion, not elitism. He has been accused of over-commercializing his music, of spending money on visual spectacle instead of musical integrity. True, his concerts feature gigantic props, golden carriages, ice skating rinks, fountains, even a castle constructed for the stage. To some, they are gaudy excesses. To others, they are the source of the enchantment. For Rieu, they do something specific, generate magic, attract people who would never otherwise go to a symphony. To him, classical music doesn't have a place in ivory towers. It has a place in people's hearts. I want everyone to feel welcome, he once stated. Music should unite us, not divide us. Nevertheless, the conflict between artfulness and accessibility has accompanied him for decades. Critics contend that his predilection for waltzes and more light classical pieces sidesteps the intellectual substance of more demanding works. They charge him with dumbing down the music to make it digestible. But Rieu takes that decision to heart. He thinks that music should bring people pleasure first and reflection second, and by his tens of millions of devotees worldwide, most of whom had never been to a classical concert in their lives before hearing about him, it is difficult to dispute his success. For each critic labeling him shallow, there are thousands of supporters who term his concerts life-changing, inspiring, and unforgettable. But the maestro's career has not been without greater controversies. In 2018, Rieu toured Israel, which drew criticism from Palestinian cultural organizations accusing him of disregarding the political tensions of the region. They called on him to cancel, claiming that his concert would serve to normalize Israeli policy against Palestinians. Rieu declined, saying in a matter-of-fact way, "I am a musician, not a politician." His aim, he added, was to spread joy through music, not to make political points. The choice polarized opinion. Some respected his impartiality, holding that music must rise above politics. Others believed that art cannot be divorced from its context. The incident highlighted the fine line international artists have to walk between artistic freedom and cultural sensitivity. For Rieu, it was another reminder that even the noblest of motives can be wrongly perceived in a fragmented world. His detractors, as loud as they may be, have never been able to dim his charm or his appeal to audiences. André Rieu's persona as a public figure is as much a part of his success as is his musicianship. He exudes warmth, humor, and optimism. In front of the audience, he addresses them directly, jokes, and converses with them as if they knew him from before. This is not common in the classical music world, where artists keep a calculated distance. Rieu's amiability has won him the hearts of many, although others claim it also generates jealousy among the classical establishment. "There is a lot of envy," he once confessed, "because we fill stadiums." His popularity, in many ways, challenges the gatekeeping of the traditional music world. Offstage, he is a perfectionist, a demanding leader who expects nothing but the best from his orchestra, but treats them like family. The Johann Strauss Orchestra has traveled the world together for decades, and it shows on stage. Laughter, camaraderie, and affection spread through their performances, enveloping audiences in something warm and intimate amidst the grand venues. Rieu's secret has ever been sincerity. He doesn't play music, he shares it. In 2024, as he celebrated his 75th birthday, André Rieu was far from slowing down. That year, he released a new album titled The Sound of Heaven, a mix of classical masterpieces and romantic melodies, ranging from Puccini's Nessun Dorma to popular adaptations that showcased his orchestra's versatility. The album was a statement that even after decades in the industry, his creativity and curiosity remain boundless. To go along with it, he released a film experience called The Dream Continues, a film that looked back at his life and career. Shot in part in his hometown of Maastricht, the film gave fans a glimpse into his world, a mix of nostalgia, victory, and thankfulness. It was not just a backward look, it was a vow that his aspiration to spread happiness with music would persist so long as he might raise his bow. Of course, age has not been without its problems. Earlier that year, Rieu canceled a number of concerts because he was unwell, causing panic among his fans. But characteristically, he soon recovered and was back on the stage, pronouncing, "Music keeps me alive." His strength, physical, emotional, and creative, has entered his folklore. To this day, his performances are selling out weeks in advance, and his records are topping European as well as global charts. 75 years young, André Rieu is the bridge between generations. He has changed the way the general public views classical music, that it can be fun, contemporary, and social. His detractors still criticize his approach, but his sustained success has convinced even the doubters of his influence. He has converted millions of unbelievers into classical music fans, something no one else in recent times has been able to do. What is most remarkable about Rieu is not his music, although his music is most remarkable, but his faith in joy. In a world where cynicism tends to dominate optimism, his concerts remind one of beauty, communion, and festivity. His life is testament that passion, when wedded with perseverance, can overcome criticism and defy challenge. The grinning violinist who used to play in the wake of his father's orchestra became a maestro who remapped the stage, not by disowning tradition, but by enlarging it. As he keeps playing, recording, and pushing boundaries, Rieu's impact extends far beyond the concert stage. He has demonstrated that classical music can grow without sacrificing its essence. In Vienna's Schönbrunn Palace or a bright piazza in Maastricht, the message remains the same: everybody's music. His orchestra is still a symbol of that inclusiveness, a family of artists committed to getting people to feel alive. André Rieu's path, marked by victories, challenges, and ageless tunes, is not the tale of the rise of a single man. It is the tale of how music survives. From an adolescent boy in the Netherlands to a world figure, he has never lost his fantasy. And as his bow floats across the strings of his Stradivarius, it appears that fantasy remains to be realized, one waltz at a time.